Well, better late than never, I guess? Kids, let me tell you a story. It's about a foundational game in a series whose makeup and quality feels so rare as to completely defy convention. It's the kind of thing that would never happen in the AAA sphere of today, and yet here it is, still coming out, still going strong. And it all started with one little robot. A robot with a dream to have a friendly chat with his uncle. And that dream would spawn a legend. Okay, actually Steamworld Dig didn't spawn the legend, I'm exaggerating there. Yeah, we're talking about the Steamworld series, and in the interest of being fair and complete, there is one kind of overlooked game in the series. Prior to its appearance on PC, Steamworld first appeared on DSiWare in the form of Steamworld Tower Defense. With the closure of Nintendo's eShop, there is no legal way to play this game. Sorry, but I'm not ready to raise the Jolly Roger yet. By accounts I've read, it was considered okay by critics and above average by players. And that's kind of it. The game didn't really make much of a splash and is so out of the mainstream today it doesn't even appear on Thunderful's site. But it did well enough to keep them going, which is how we got to our actual game. And the one that most players will know as their entry point into the series. And that is Steamworld Dig. Meet Rusty. Rusty is a Steambot. We'll get into what that is later. Rusty is from out of town. He's here because his Uncle Joe sent him a letter giving him the claim to a mine under the fading town of Tumbleton. While Joe always considered Rusty to be a kindred spirit, Rusty is no miner and doesn't really get why Joe would give him the mine, so he's come to town to ask him personally, where he falls into the plot. Meet Dorothy McCrank. Dorothy is another Steambot. Again, more on that later. She is a miner, at least by hobby if not by trade, and is also a darling of the Tumblr fanart community. Y'all are talented out there. Unfortunately, she's got bad news for Rusty. Of the, I just found Joe and he's, how alive was he last time you met, kind. Rusty finds the body, inherits his pickaxe, and starts his adventure. By the way, this is the last time Rusty talks for almost the whole damn game. It's kind of weird and I don't understand the decision. It's not as if there's nothing for him to say or comment on, but after this opening conversation with Dorothy, he won't speak again until the final boss. So he's not a silent protagonist, he's just a protagonist who trends towards silence. It's only off-putting when you stop and realize that the whole town is talking to him and he's not saying a word back, even though he absolutely can and has. As for the townsfolk, we've got Dorothy, who pays you for the stuff you bring up, her father, Cranky McCrank, who sells you upgrades and lives as proof that being Irish transcends biology. Finally, there's Lola. I have no idea why she's here since you can't go into the saloon, and what do Steambots drink anyways? Well, that's enough for the characters, let's dig. Steamworld Dig advertises itself as a Metroidvania. I'm not convinced. It has a lot of the trappings, but maybe after we describe the gameplay, you'll see the problem. So if any of you played Dome Keeper or any of the derivative takes on the concept, this might feel familiar. Rusty's main job is to mine. That's how he's going to afford his upgrades in order to mine further and more efficiently. His second job is to find out what happened to his uncle and what secrets are hidden in the mine. To do both of these things, you have to dig deeper. This is where the game's addictive mix of discovery and problem solving come into play. Rusty can dig in any direction, and with a wall jump ability he can also move in any direction. He cannot, however, dig while jumping or wall climbing. That means digging side to side and down is easy, but digging up is very hard. The layout of each section of the mine is procedurally generated, so you'll never be quite sure where the most profitable spots to dig will be. If you accidentally pass by a treasure trove of resources, you'll either have to make your way back up and sink a new shaft, or buy enough ladders from McCrank to make up the difference. Trying to maximize the profitability of each run, or simply to satisfy the crow brain demanding you grab all the shiny stuff, leads the player to cost-benefit analyses as you decide whether it's worth it to go for something you missed or proceed downward in search of greater riches. It's really only your time that's being spent. Rusty does have a lantern which will run out of fuel, but even if it does, you aren't insta-killed and the game is still playable. McCrank even sells spare lanterns to help you light up the dark areas if you run out. You can still dig down even if you can't see where the treasure is. Distance is your progress, not dollars to your name. But like other mining games, the terrain gets harder the further down you go. Upgrades will be mandatory if you want to be breaking blocks in less than 20 clicks, so that treasure is important. But maybe not important enough to go ExxonMobil on the whole map in search of one more nugget of trashite. The resource names are funny, by the way. Once you're clear of an area, you won't have a reason to go back up. There are secret caves and treasures to uncover, but these aren't unique from the treasures you acquire in your regular digs. They're more like short gameplay challenges with higher valued rewards. Totally worth doing if you come across them organically. Some caves are mandatory though. In addition to enemies, these caves are housing upgrades for Rusty that include super jumps, double jumps, drills, and other fun little toys. These will be needed to keep clearing the way into new areas and, as McCrank suggests, might indicate what happened to Uncle Joe. And could we just take a moment to talk about the art in this game? I still waffle on whether I really consider this to be steampunk. I think that's because the steampunk aesthetic is so tied to Victorian aesthetics. But that's not what makes it steampunk. The real kicker is the retro-futuristic technology. Steamworld throws a curveball into this by making its settings steampunk western, and the idea has a lot of merit. All the tubes, pipes, lenses, and weird glowing artifacts we love are here, along with cowboy hats, dynamite, saloons, and distilleries. The character sprites also have so much personality. These are robots who take the place of humanity. They're all designed in a way that mimics human looks, styles, or behaviors, but they're still steam-powered robots. They don't have clothes, they have paint jobs. They don't have faces, they have face plates. They even have furnaces built in to power them, which is a really cool touch, by the way. The subtle dissonance between what they are and what they are trying to be is fascinating in a way that could easily have been disturbing if it had been that kind of game. I'm a sucker for unique creative art styles, and Steamworld is one of those where the more you study it, the more interesting details you find. And really, the more questions you might have. When Thunderful created this game, they were still a pretty small developer, and the size of Steamworld Dig reflects that. It only took me about 5 hours to finish this game. It's short, but it's also on the older side, so $10, $2 an hour, I've had worse deals, and it's worth it to me to see where Steamworld really started. Aside from where it really started. And that's Steamworld Dig, my shiny new game. Thanks for playing, everyone. Oh wait, crap, we never did a story section. I forgot a part at the end. Hang on, take the cards down. No, remove the like and subscribe. I don't care how well animated it is. We're not done yet. Take it down. Okay, so yeah, let's talk about the story, which means going into spoiler territory. Click on this time where we'll talk about why Steamworld Dig is probably not a Metroidvania. So, loading up Dig for the first time, you're going to be hit with a couple questions. The first is, what are Steambots? It's tempting to say, oh yes, they're the default race of the game, like DreamWorks' Robots movie, and call it at that. Except for this. On his way in, Rusty passes a post with what is clearly a human skull on it and a no sign. So from the start, we have the Steambots, and we know Steambots don't like skulls. Or, more likely, they don't like the beings who have skulls. Us. It's hard to blame them sometimes. The first section of the mine doesn't have much story-wise to tell us, though I would like to take a brief moment and comment on how unbelievably good the art direction is here. Everything has this warm glow, giving the underground tunnels an almost cozy vibe. Most of the time, Rusty has a solid wall behind him, but every now and again he opens a set of tiles that reveals distant caverns, giving the player a sense of just how vast this underground labyrinth is. About the only story-themed items we find are Rusty's upgrades. Understand that for Steambots there is no such thing as clothing. There are tools they can carry around, but they're more laissez-faire about their bodies than a human would be. So when Rusty gets upgrades that let him run faster, he's not replacing his shoes, he's replacing his feet. And when the Tumbletonites see these things, they're mostly impressed. But McCrank? He's the only engineer among them and is very familiar with steam-based technology. When he sees the changes Rusty's been making to his body, he can't identify the tech except to say it looks a lot like something Joe was toying with. But without those upgrades, Rusty wouldn't be able to reach the bottom of the mine, or the next area. This is called the Old World, and it's where what's left of humanity exists, and they are in a very sorry state. As a human myself, I have to admit a bit of distaste at so readily and sometimes cold-bloodedly dispatching these remnants. Most of them just hang around sleeping, and if they're not sleeping, they're drinking. I don't know what they're fermenting, but it has them in a constantly addled and aggressive state. Any humans who catch sight of Rusty will attack. Clearly, the feelings Steambots have for humans are well reciprocated. But why are they like this? Steambots refer to them as shiners, which seems to be an abbreviation of moonshiners, and if the remains of their caverns are to be believed, they are the survivors of an age-old war. It's not clear who that war was with. If tower defense is canon, then Steambots have had conflicts with shiners in the past. but they were already in a degenerative state by that time. It's claimed by McCrank that humans created the first Steambot, probably as laborers. Did the Steambots destroy humanity? Or did humanity destroy itself and the Steambots inherited the remains? There might be answers in the later games or the wikis, but I'm trying to stick with what we see in-game. And what we see is a mutated, regressed people whose greatest achievements appear to be distilling toxic waste into alcohol using old military equipment. A sad end to the species. But then the Steambots aren't just ordinary robots. They share human drives, they have jobs, trades, passions, appreciation, ingenuity, and affection for one another. They can grow old and die, they can have children, though the method by which babies are made is a bit more practical, and raise these children as sons and daughters. They've inherited more than a world from their creators, they've inherited their souls. And so one might argue that humanity has not actually died out, just changed forms. Which is basically what happened in the Talos Principle, just without the plague. Rusty continues to be upgraded via the mysterious stations and their strange blue energy, one which McCrank, lacking any idea where this tech comes from but seeing it as entirely alien to Steambot nature, dubs electricity. If any of you have a basic understanding of physics and steam-powered electrical generators, let's just let this one pass, okay? There is not supposed to be anything below the old world, but when Rusty breaks through that last layer, he finds something. A system of technology. Ancient? Modern? It's unknown. A few shiners have gotten lost down here, along with some of the local robotic wildlife, but it's almost entirely automated. The exception is the core, where we find what Uncle Joe was working on, or with, before he died. This is a robot powered by electricity. This is the Voltbot. The end of the Steambots, as the Steambots were the end of humanity. All they need to finish the job is Rusty. Over the course of the game, each upgraded has converted him bit by bit into a Voltbot. His heart is the final piece to the puzzle. Silent for nearly the whole game, Rusty makes his feelings on the subject clear. Now, if all that sounded a little abrupt and full of speculation, it kind of is. Steamworld Dig, A Fistful of Dirt, doesn't give you a ton to work with and ends its story without much fanfare. After the boss fight, there's an explosion. A month later, there's still no sign of Rusty. The residents of Tumbleton are all certain no one could have survived. All except Dorothy, who still thinks her friend is down there somewhere. And with that, let's step out of spoiler territory. At least we can all find peace knowing he died doing what he loved. Welcome back. The last thing I want to touch on is that I don't really see this as a Metroidvania despite the descriptions and despite the time to double jump. So Metroidvanias are all about exploration, but a key part of that is the player's choice in how to go about exploring. Some Metroidvanias are better at this than others, but they should all at least give the illusion of choice, if not the fact. Steamworld Dig doesn't have this. You are headed downwards, there is nowhere else to go. There are 3 areas to the game and you will encounter them sequentially. You can sequence break the game a little, but you can't reach Area 3 before reaching Area 2. Nor is there any real reason to return to those areas aside from 2 very specific missions. A little like how they added the roguelike tag to Sunless Sea, I feel that Steamworld Dig doesn't really earn its Metroidvania pips. There is definitely a feeling of exploration and even revelation, but that's not mutually exclusive from a linear level-based design. Your experience will be similar to other players, but that doesn't mean the experience is bad. The discoveries to be found in Steamworld Dig are interesting and worth finding, even if the order in which you will find them is entirely predetermined. But there is something else about Steamworld Dig that needs to be discussed, especially in the context of this video. The game's about 10 years old. I picked my shiny new games based on 3 criteria. 1, it has to have a unique gameplay or narrative feature that sets it apart from other games of its type. 2, it has to key into my interest personally. The day this stops being fun is the day I stop doing this. 3, the game needs to have come out in the last couple months. That last one is there because it pushes me to try games that I might otherwise not, and hopefully avoid becoming set in my ways by looking for the same kind of stuff. Suffice to say, I had a bit more trouble than usual this month. But it wasn't that there weren't good options, far from it. The problem was that the option I wanted to pick wasn't really an option. Because this month, SteamWorld Heist 2 came out. That's what I wanted to play, but I don't like playing a sequel when I haven't played its predecessor, assuming it's available. So I thought, what if I just did that? Played Heist 1 and then did a review for Heist 2. Well, okay, except there's another problem. These games all take place in the same connected universe, which means that Steamworld Heist 1 is also a sequel to Steamworld Dig. Steamworld Dig 2 comes after Heist 1. You might be seeing the problem, but I hope you're also seeing the brilliance. Thunderful Games has done something kind of crazy. By now, anyone familiar with the AAA space knows how risk-averse they are. Business-wise, it's not a smart move to present someone with a familiar label and have it contain something unexpected, and so big developers focus on brand recognition to build brand loyalty. Thunderful did things a bit differently. Steamworld Dig is, in my opinion, a level-based exploration game. Steamworld Heist, the direct successor to the Steamworld name, is a tactics game. And amazingly, all of Steamworld has been well received, which makes this whole series an anomaly in the indie game sphere, and well worth exploring. Which is what I'm going to be doing. We're going to be doing a shiny new game on each of the Steamworld games, with Dig being the starting point. Mind you, that doesn't mean every video will be a Steamworld one, especially if something really cool has come out and I need to talk about it. Consider this a side quest. Actually, that would be a good name for the series. So good there's no way no one has taken it yet. Steam Quest? Maybe. So that's Steamworld Dig, my shiny new-ish game. Thanks for playing, everyone.